I've been on a couple of Discords lately, and I've had this conversation, and I want to have this conversation with you guys. We talked. I've talked this AEW TV deal to death on the Mike and JD show. I actually wrote. I wrote a column about it. I've had some information and that I've been kind of holding on to for a long time, and finally was able to talk about it because the news had gotten out. Because I was legit told that 170 number in June, I think. It was like before it actually had come out, I was told like that's like the target figure right there. So it's going to be in and around 170. There could be different things added to the deal that can make it go up and make it go down. So I talked about it. So I wrote a column earlier this week, so please go ahead and check that out. I was happy to be able to put some of that out there. I try to drop little nuggets here and there, but I was legit told that, and I was like, hey, you can't say it until it comes out, because then the person that told me will know, because they're not telling a lot of people. It's like, okay. So I couldn't do that. So thankfully I was able to finally tell that. But they AEW shopping around this Shockwave show to broadcast channels. And then a lot of people think that it might be heading to FS1, but none of that has been like confirmed. I think that's still a rumor at this point, but it's been rumored by like Zarian and Meltzer and I think Sap even talked about it at one point. So it's like they're definitely shopping it, and they're definitely confident that they're going to get a deal done. And you look good for them. I mean, I don't think they need another TV show. I think them adding another TV show is going to devalue the shows that they already have, which is what happened to Dynamite when they added Collision. Oh, a swig of coffee. But AEW is becoming a content farm like WWE. WWE has so much content to follow that you just can't follow it. And so to where I've gotten to the point where I just can't watch their weekly programming anymore. There's just too much. I got other shit to do. And so I like TNA's pace right now. It's just, and they put the show commercial free on TNA Plus, and it's an easy watch for me. It's like an hour and 25 minutes. Okay. It's an hour and 25 minutes when it's commercial free. That's an easy watch. And they put all of their energy into that one show, and then it leads to a monthly special, whether it be a pay-per-view or a TNA Plus. I like that pace. That's a good pace for me. But WWE, you got Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. NXT, you could probably look at it separately because their storylines lead to a different thing. So maybe if you're like just an NXT watcher, that's fine for you. I just don't think that's a very good show. I've tried to watch it to keep up with some of the TNA stuff that's going on there, but the TV show is not very good. And that's because it's a wrestling school, and those people are still learning how to say their lines properly, and it's pretty tough watch at times. When you get to their Peacock specials for NXT, it's they're typically pretty good because they have their matches so rehearsed that the matches end up being good, and that crowd loves everything they do, so it has like a good energy and a good atmosphere. The weekly TV is not good though. It is like TNA is way better. So for me, TNA is the easiest to consume because AEW and WWE is oversaturated to where now I'm getting to the point where I did watch Dynamite this week because it's part of my routine. But the more that they add, the more they take away Dynamite, I'm probably just going to get to, and the more pay-per-views they add and Saturday night specials and things, I'm probably going to get to the point where I am with WWE, where I'm only watching the big shows. It's because they're adding too much. So I say all that to say, AEW shopping around a C-level program that's probably not going to net a ton of money for them, for their level. So 25 to 30 million is kind of what the ballpark figure that's been going around. Well, I think TNA should take these San Antonio shows, because these San Antonio shows are the best looking shows they've done all year. And they've had some good looking shows this year. You know, the initial Vegas tapings and then the ones in April, I thought all looked very good. The Tampa shows I thought looked pretty good. The Chicago shows I also looked pretty good. These shows in San Antonio blow those away. By far the best produced shows that they've done all year. As far as aesthetically, audio is crisp. The picture is perfect. They went back to the red ropes. And then of course the crowd looks great. The crowd is well lit. Even though they had some empty chairs during the tapings, it didn't like look like it was like completely empty. It looked great. It looked fantastic, and I'm happy for them. If I were them, I would take this set here, and then you can mix in Vegas and Tampa and Chicago, and I would shop that around to everybody. I'm not just saying the ones that AEW shopping around to, but I would like, hey, we need to revisit this conversation. And we need to revisit this conversation and go to CW and go to FS1, go to Sci-Fi, Paramount, like all like Reels, like anybody that's got some type of foothold in the industry, and get this show on a bigger network and tell them that you will do it at a fraction of the cost of what AEW is charging. Because if AEW is charging 25 to 30 million, that's going to be a drop in the bucket for them. That's not that big of a deal. But if TNA can get like 10 million, that changes the whole dynamic of their company. That puts them probably in a profitability range. And then they also it grows their brand, and then puts them in more homes, and allows them the platform to be able to sell their streaming app. That's the move for them. I feel so strongly about it, and I typically I'll talk about that stuff here, but I don't really go like on Discords, because you're going to get a lot of mouth breathers going, well, nobody wants to watch TNA. It's like, actually, if you take a look at the crowds that they're drawing, they're not like that much less than what AEW is drawing for their weekly TV. If you want to talk about the percentage of viewers that TNA has and their ability to sell tickets based on their viewership, they're selling to a larger percentage of their audience than AEW is, much larger percentage. Last week, TNA actually got back into the top 100 for the first time. They've only been in the top 150 for a couple of times this year, but they were able to get back into the top 100, which they had not done since the previous year. And I think that was, and I do not remember the episode. I used to have a spreadsheet because I was tracking the ratings every week. But I think that, they got back into the top 100, and they only had 72,000 viewers, and it was a 0.02 rating. So you're probably talking about like 24,000 in the demo. And they were able to get back into the top 100. So I think you take all that information, and then you start going around to these networks, man. If you can get like $5 to $10 million for your show, and then the opportunity to plug TNA Plus, which I think is ultimately the best thing that they got going, I think that's a win for this company. And Billy brings up a good point. Isn't impact important to access? Basically, that's the only thing that draws anything. That is true. But Access is a music channel, okay? Access was willingly gave up Invicta, which Invicta would have been the second biggest show on the network, because they were able to get a deal at CBS Sports Network. And CBS Sports Net does not pay a lot of money, so they're probably not getting a bunch of money, but they're willing to give it up. I think that I think for the right deal that they would give it up. But right now, Access continues to drop in coverage. They're not the same as they were 5 years ago. Okay. 5 years ago, they were in like 50 million homes. I would be shocked if they were in 25. Right. And which is why the decline in the amount of homes that they're in is so significant. That's the reason why TNA is no longer in that top 150 regularly. Because when I was covering it, I was covering the ratings every week. I had a column. I had a spreadsheet. I had everything. And they, more often than not, they were in the top 150. They would very rarely be out of that top 150. But now it's rare that they're in the top 150. And so, and now some people will say, well, it's because TNA Plus is stronger. TNA Plus is stronger. We don't have those numbers, but TNA Plus is stronger. But, you're not, I don't think 100,000 people are watching TNA on TNA Plus in the States. I just don't think that's happening. if someone gets a data point to prove me wrong, I would happily eat it on that. But I don't think that's what's happening. Right? I don't think 75,000 people are watching. So probably looking like 10 to 20. Okay. And I think I would feel pretty confident in that. Now I don't have any evidence to back that up. That's just my read on the situation. But I mean, that's just what it seems like to me. So we'll see. But I really do think at this point, it really is time for them to go and shop around this show and say, hey, look, we will give you our A show. We'll give you the show that we put all of our energy into. Where all of our top stars will be on. We'll be like the people that we advertise weekly will actually be on this show. Okay. And we're going to have storylines. We're going to have everything. And we're going to have week to week storytelling. It's not going to be a bunch of random matches. We're going to treat it with respect. We're going to have a good looking produced show. We have relationships with WWE. We have relationships with New Japan. We have relationships with AAA. We had relationships with AEW. Look at the history of all the people that are coming in here. Oh, and if we get paid, we'll be able to bring in top free agents to the show. Recognizable names that your audience will know, and they will want to come and watch the show. We'll put all of our energy into it, and it will not be our C show. You will get our A effort. This will be our Raw. This will be our Dynamite. And guess what? We'll do it for like a third of the cost that it would cost for you for AEW C-level show. You can get it for a third of the cost with a recognizable name in TNA. We'll do that. They should do it, and I hope they do. I am not, but I've been beating the drum of TNA needs a new TV deal ever. We've all been beating it. We've been beating it since they were on Pop. Because Pop, that was not a good fit there. Then I remember they got moved. They were moving nights, and then they got moved down to like 10 p.m. and it was like a whole thing. And they ended up finishing like on that channel with a whimper. And then they moved to Pursuit, and we were beating that drum. And then they moved to Access, and we took a little bit of a break for a bit. But then we realized just how small Access is. And now we're like, okay, for like 4 years now, we've been like, okay, now they need to get off Access. And I think after seeing that, 72,000, it's been time for a long time. They really need to get off that channel. They really do. Because I think that they have completely outgrown the channel, and they need to get something more sustainable, significant, that's going to keep them in the landscape that actually pays them a little bit of money. But they can't go in there saying like, we want 25 million. They're not going to get it. They're just not. So they need to get in there and get like a 1 to 2 year prove it deal. I think Gerard was saying like a 1 to 2 year prove it deal, and I agree with that. That's what they need to do. So I hope that they do it. That is my challenge to them. Again, I mean, they could already be doing stuff like that. We've been hearing for a while that they have been shopping the show to networks. I think at one point there were negotiations with CW, at least pitches were made. They need to revisit that because NXT and CW do not have an exclusive agreement. So, and CW has turned their station around, and they got rid of their scripted programming, and now they're wanting to do more sports. So, I think TNA on Thursday nights on CW would be perfect. And you can keep the synergy between the two companies with NXT and TNA. I think that would be great.